All right, Algebra 2, we're going to do a few more practice with compositions just to make sure that we're understanding it. And then I'm planning on doing maybe a quiz on tomorrow on Thursday. If not, it'll probably be on Monday, just over this because we got to keep chugging along here. So compositions we talked about yesterday. Compositions are when I compose one function of another function. I'm plugging one function into the other function. So we had the two things that we looked at. We looked at f of g of x, and we looked at g of f of x. So this meant that if I had f of g of x, I took g of x and plugged it into f. G of f of x, I took f and I plugged it into g. And even to this day, if I'm doing problems like this, I'm underlining that second part and drawing the arrow to show me that I'm plugging it in the first part. It helps keep it clear in my head. So if you're struggling with compositions, always underline that second part and then draw an arrow to the first part to show that you're plugging that second function into the first function, okay? All right, so let's do f of x equals 3x minus 7 and g of x equals 2x plus 1. All right, so let's start off. Let's do f of g of x. So that means f of g of x, that means I'm going to take function g of x, this one, and I'm going to plug it into function f. So I'm going to take g of x, 2x plus 1, and I'm going to plug it in to function f for the x value. So that would be 3 parenthesis, because now in for the x value, I'm plugging in g of x. So 2x plus 1 minus 7. And then work it out. So 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times 1 is 3. And then I do have some like terms. 3 minus 7 is negative 4. So 6x minus 4 would be my answer. Let's do... We could do a couple of different examples with this one. So let's go ahead and do the opposite. Let's do g of f of x. So that means I'm going to compose function f into function g. So I'm going to take function f and I'm going to plug it in to function g. So take function f and plug it in to function g. So that would be 2 parenthesis and then n for x. I'm plugging in f of x. Just 3x minus 7 plus 1. Work it out. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14 plus 1. So that's 6x. Negative 14 plus 1 is negative 13. All right, we're still going to do the same two things here. So we can do a lot of problems with this. All right, we also had some where we plugged numbers in first. So f of g of negative 1. Okay, so f of g of negative 1. That means that I'm going to find g of negative 1, and I'm going to plug it into function f. So I'm going to go to function g. And I'm going to plug in negative 1 first. So I'm going to do 2 times negative 1 plus 1. I just plugged it in right there. Okay? So that's going to be negative 2 plus 1, which is negative 1. So g of negative 1 is negative 1. Then I'm going to plug that into f. So now I'm going to take this and plug it in to f. So that would be 3 times negative 1 minus 7. So that's negative 3 minus 7, which is negative 10. All right, let's do f of g of, we'll make that an 8. All right, so I'm going to find g of 8 first. So that means I'm going to go to function g, plug in 8, and then I'm going to plug that in to f. Okay, so I'm going to go to function g, 2x plus 1, and I'm going to plug in 8. So 2 times 8 plus 1, so that's 16 plus 1, which is 17. After I find g of 8, I'm going to plug it into f. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it in to f. So 3 times 17 minus 7. Okay, so what is that? It's 51 minus 7. And 51 minus 7 is 44. Hopefully my math's right. I don't have a calculator. All right. I'm going to give you some problems up here that are different. I'm going to give you a new f of x and g of x. All right. So f of x equals 3x plus 9 and g of x equals x squared. So I want you to find f of g of x and I want you to find g of f of x. So pause me here, work them out, and then we'll check them. All right, so g of x plugged into f. G of x plugged into f. So that'll be 3 times x squared plus 9. So 3 times x squared, that's just 3x squared plus 9. Okay? All right, g of f of x. This one's going to take a little bit of space. So I'm going to take f of x and I'm going to plug it into g. I'm going to take f of x and plug it into g. Now g is x squared. And remember when we plug something in for squared, squared means times itself. So this would become 3x plus 9 squared. And then that would become 3x plus 9 times 3x plus 9, and then you would have to double distribute. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 9 is 27x. 9 times 3x is 27x. And 9 times 9 is 81. So that's 9x squared. 27 plus 27, that's 54. X plus 81. All right, we're going to go with the same two, and we're going to do some compositions with numbers. Okay. All right, so do f of g of 4. All right, pause me and go for it. All right, so g of 4 is what should have happened first, and then I'll plug that into f. So go to g, plug in 4. So that's 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. Then I'm going to plug that into f. So that's 3 times 16 plus 9. So 3 times 16, that's 48 plus 9, which is 57. All right. How about, let's try to trick you all here for a second. See who's listened to me all year. All right. So f of g of x of -2. All right. Pause me and go for it. All right. So g of -2. Anytime you plug in a negative number, use parentheses. That's what I was talking about. See if anybody ever listens to me. So this would be -2 squared, which would make that +4, not -4. Anytime that you square a negative number, it becomes positive. Then I'm going to sub that into f. So that's 3 times 4 plus 9. So that's 12 plus 9, which is 21. All right. Try... g of f of 1. Pause me and go for it. All right, so f of 1. So I go to function f. So 3 times 1 plus 9. So that's 3 plus 9, which is 12. So that's f of 1. Then I'm going to plug it into g. I'm going to plug this into g. So that's 12 squared, which is 144. Okay. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. Work out your homework, show your work like I'm doing. Even if it's just a number like this, I want to see your work so that I can find mistakes, okay? All right, see y'all.